Hey folks, a friend of mine recently released this game, Slavjank, right? They describe it as sort of like oh god, I'm bad at aiming. As sort of like an arena style Serious Sam, right? And while fairly standard in its gameplay, you bop around, it has an element of gameplay that I actually do really like. That is the sort of the really low gravity. And I realize that games these days, that's what they're missing. This sort of arcadey, really low gravity type beat is exactly the kind of game that fits sort of a little niche that I do enjoy actually playing. Holy hell, kind of fun. One of the biggest things that Slavjank does right, in my personal opinion, is the gravity. The gravity makes the game more fun. And I think that alone makes it more interesting than most of the games that I've played recently. It's a sort of breath of fresh air, if you will. It reminds me of when I used to play Pyro Dodgeball, if anybody still remembers that. It's been a while, but in Team Fortress 2, you were given this really big gravity. And the whole goal was to just move around and not get hurt. Well, one of the things Slavjank will reward you for in this regard that makes it more fun than other games that try a similar style is the introduction of different enemy types, but you're only limited to one or two weapons. The one that I use being specifically just the revolver. And my lack of accuracy is fucking me up here, however. The game itself is definitely, it's more fun than, say, if you take mobility shooters like anything that Cliff Blazinski had recently released, or you take a game that feels like you are a lead block surrounded in gelatin, like fucking CSGO, right? The actual gameplay just doesn't feel normal, if that makes sense. Because you are not quite the same kind of squishy blob you'll always be for every game, so it doesn't really feel as comfortable to play these types of games. Whereas with Slabjank, your movement is a little slow and your gravity be high. That makes it fundamentally more fun. Because you can just bop around the map. You don't even have to worry about doing too much. You pop in, you get a gun, and fuck off. If I could suggest anything, aside from including other weapon varieties, I think I had already done so. It would definitely be the ability for, between rounds, to get upgrades, like speed upgrades or gravity upgrades, if that makes sense. Because fundamentally, that helps make arena shooters like this more, that's what keeps you on top, if that makes sense. That's something that helps to really sort of just test your skills, almost how roguelikes do it. and that if you're given this really high ability to do damage or this really high ability to survive, you are more likely, infinitely more likely so, to be able to keep playing the game. And that is something that helps make Slavjank really fun in this regard. However, stuff like, if you get cornered, that is entirely your own fault. And if you do that like that, if you play this game like that as opposed to other games, with this, it's punishing in that you fail the whole game. However, in other games, it's not so punishing in that you don't just like lose money or you die or anything like that. In fact, you now have to contend with the fact the whole game, the entire round of 16 or 20 or 5 or how many other rounds are now in jeopardy. Whereas here, you don't even have to worry all too much. Since if you're dead, you can just restart. Your time is definitely a big thing, and one of the things I hope to see is, in between rounds, they get that sort of ability to add upgrades and whatnot between rounds. The speed boost, ability to fire weapons faster, different weapons altogether. If I could pull up with a fucking an Olympia, that'd be fun. However, I cannot, and this is, I think, the one thing that I do not like. Otherwise, I think Slavjank is definitely a fun game that I would play in between other games in order to sort of get a breath of fresh air when I'm tired of playing every other game. Fortnite, you can play forever, but eventually you're going to get burnt out on it. Slavjank, it's that little bit of energy you need to make things different, because it's definitely a different style game than what we have today. Give it a shot,